I'm here to help women reset and rewild, to embrace and prioritize the pauses in order to reclaim their peace and power. I'm Dr. Michelle Peris, director of the Poppy Clinic and founder and CEO of the Wild Collective. As a disruptor, naturopathic doctor, wife, and mama, I've created a global movement and sacred space for women to rise together. Here, you'll break through limitations, romanticize your life, and unlock the magic of your divine feminine power. My life's work is rooted in community, lifting women into their most powerful, authentic selves, while empowering clinicians to elevate their practices with a transformational, community-driven model. I lead a thriving, passion-fueled business and naturopathic practice brimming with abundance, where I can guide women to invigorate their lives through sisterhood and elevate healthcare with a cutting-edge transformational approach. I've witnessed firsthand in my practice how this model sparks consistent health transformation, creates flourishing communities, and brings profitable success. You can have it all, a life filled with abundance, contagious joy, and untethered potential. So pull up a seat. It's time to pour into yourself and tap into your intuition and design a life that's wild, free, and uniquely yours. And I'm going to show you how. This is Wild Medicine. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Wild Medicine with me and Dr. Tara Rawana.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you here.
Happy to be here.
So when we were talking about all the things that we wanted to discuss this year and things that we wanted to share, one of the things I shared with you was one of the quotes that stuck with me that was on my vision board that seems to be dominating every thought that I have over the last month. And the quote is this. The quote is, if we can't enjoy it today, we won't enjoy it tomorrow. And the thing that I find particularly haunting about this is that I have evidence, from watching women before me not be able to enjoy things. And I think with the world that we exist in and all of us seem to perpetually delay gratification for someday. And I think what people don't understand is that someday will never arrive if we've caged ourselves in from denying what is pleasurable now. So when I shared that with you, you wanted us to hit record on this conversation because there's so many people that would benefit from understanding how profoundly important this is. And I said, I will let you talk in a minute, I promise. I said what sparked the truth in this is you sending me flowers every 2 weeks and how profoundly, one, thoughtful that was, but two, that really shifted me. Here are my flowers. These ones are 2 weeks old. Look how fresh they look.
They look beautiful.
Yeah. Something changed in me that was like, no, I want to live in a beautiful space. I want to live and feel the beauty of everything that is right now versus holding off, meaning not buying the flowers, not, I was telling you, I store candles. I store candles for someday because they're really pretty and I don't want to waste them. And I decided after these beautiful flowers arrived at my house that I wasn't going to deny myself the permission to enjoy those things today, because having the evidence that I have around me that someday is probably never going to happen if I don't learn to get comfortable or calibrate to a level of enjoyment today without doing it now. So I think that's the thing we need to be mindful of is we sit in circles with women, we talk to women one-on-one, we know how deep this runs, and often we're focused on the negative consequence of denying ourselves things, but what about the pleasure we're also cutting ourselves off on? People don't realize that when we try and create a neutrality with everything, we prevent ourselves from not only experiencing the bad, but we also prevent ourselves from experiencing the good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And, I think too, when it comes to delaying this, and I think we've both had conversations in office about this. It's until when? When are we going to know that we're in the place where we can enjoy the thing now? Right. And it's almost, sometimes it feels almost like a punishment in the present. I don't deserve it yet. I'm not worthy of enjoyment yet. I just have to get through X. Or once I'm out of this job or this or this or this, then I can enjoy my life. But yeah, I think what we were talking about, it's like, it doesn't have to be so binary, right? Like it can be, you can enjoy the things now and like it can all exist at the same time, right? You don't have to earn the flowers. You don't have to earn the candle, right? Like it can be beautiful. You can enjoy it now.
Yeah, I think this is what's so. I was just thinking about you sharing with me like your retirement plan, and not to go into details because that's private information, but you said something to me that was so cool. We both read a book, Die with Zero, and listened to the podcast episode, and it was really this reevaluation of, sure, we do want to save. We do want to prepare. I think I saw a recent stat that, very few Canadians are prepared for retirement. So there is a need to delay some pieces or invest in tomorrow. Sure. But at what cost? And what do we think what is someday for someone? And I think this is the thing I really want to hit home, and then I'll expand on what I was really bringing your stuff up with. But is if you don't have a muscle flexed for enjoying things today, you won't know how. You don't wake up suddenly one day being like, today is the day I'm going to delight and take pleasure in things. If you've spent an entire lifetime sacrificing for tomorrow, and unless you are really like this self-attuned, and most of us are not, person, you don't have bandwidth, you don't have the muscle flex, you don't have the neural pathways to facilitate that. And so I think the intention of having this type of conversation and sharing it with everyone is the realization that we ought to start working and exercising this even in small amounts today so that we have capacity for that tomorrow. And the thing I was bringing up with you that I thought was so mature, there's something so mature about you. But one of the things you said is that, you want to save and you want to put away, and you guys are very strategic about that, but you also want to enjoy today. And so there is this massive intentionality with you in terms of how you navigate life and prepare for tomorrow, but also let yourself relish in enjoying today. And so we can hold both sides. But I think why this becomes so incredibly important is that we can get so focused on retirement seems to be the thing. And I unfortunately have a lot of clinical evidence of unfortunate cases where patients sacrifice their health, their entire career. They sacrifice their time freedom. They sacrifice investment in building muscle and all these pieces over time for this glorious retirement moment to only then get the catastrophic diagnosis of something actually going on. And I mean, I've seen it unfortunately happen in clinical practice. So I know, there is a cost that comes from that level of sacrifice, and it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. And I think what you said too about, if you don't know how to enjoy now, what is going to shift so that you do know how to enjoy it later, right? And I think for us, like thinking about retirement and then working backwards was so freeing. Right? Like when we're like, okay, if this is what we want, then how do we also want to maximize our life now? Right? What does that look like? And then you can kind of dream, right? Like I think, sometimes they say when you ask people what they want, they tell you everything they don't want. Right? But they don't tell you what they do because we don't actually spend much time thinking about what we do want, right? And we were talking about this before the podcast about how there is this study that said that 95% of our thoughts are repetitive thoughts and 80% of our thoughts are negative thoughts daily. And I just find, and I share that in our Empowered Tween program, our puberty program for moms and daughters. And every time I share that, all the moms in the room are like, what? 95% repetitive, what? But it's so true. And I think we see this all the time, right? And I think in some ways we can be guilty of this too, of being on that loop, right? And if we're on this loop of 95%, literally 95, that is such a wild number. But if those are the repetitive thoughts, we need to intervene to make sure that they are not overwhelmingly negative or overwhelmingly self-destructive, right? We do have some control over that. But yeah, it's if 95% of those thoughts are repetitive, what makes you think that in 10 years you're going to know how to change that all of a sudden, right? We have to intervene now. We have to think about this now.
Yeah. And I think this is what's so critically important about everything that you bring up about that is like we understanding those pieces and then understanding that we live in a society that really does honor productivity and achievement and, just constantly pushing for the next thing. Why this conversation always tends to go over really well, and by well, I mean it gives women something to chew on in a wild circle, is that when you actually sit down and ask them what they value, and then furthermore, if the decisions that they're currently making are in alignment with their values, it blows their mind. Some of the things that we've spent a lot of time unpacking in wild circles has to do with this concept because I think we like to say a lot of things because it makes us immediately feel good. We get the dopamine hit of like saying like, I'm on the pursuit of peace. But if we don't know, one, that if that is a value, if that's a core value, are we making decisions on a day-to-day basis that actually provide peace? Right? So first you would actually have to be able to discern what peace feels like in your body. Then you would say, okay, well then am I making decisions in my day that actually create that feeling or that sensation of peace? And then what sort of acts would I do on a day-to-day basis to achieve said feeling? And so this is why this conversation is so important, because unless we are actually being that intentional about our thought life, about how we're gaining clarity about decision making and then how we're building that into an everyday life. To your point, if 95% of our thoughts are repetitive and 80% of those are negative, you don't suddenly wake up at 65 knowing what to do with that. You wake up at 65 as an individual who has constantly caged herself in, not consciously, through sacrifice of all that has denied themselves of all the things that would provide peace or joy or fulfillment. And you won't have the playbook. You haven't practiced it. You won't know what to do except for continue to pattern on at 65. And so this is like this, hopefully the intention is like the alarm clock that this is the episode that makes you go like, wait a minute, why am I doing all of these things? And yes, no one is saying preparing for tomorrow is important. That's what I liked about bringing up Tara's situation, that there's such intentionality with how you're choosing to invest or choosing to have those conversations with your husband, and also very intentional decisions about how to also appreciate today.
Yeah.
If you can't appreciate today, you will not be able to appreciate tomorrow. That's just how this works. It's how we're wired.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. Like we are patterned beings. We're patterned beings and we need that interruption if we really want to change, right? And I think that that's why everything comes back to shed. But I think that that's why people are so interested in the fact that shed is a reset, right? It's like, come into this, we'll change everything. Everything gets quiet and things are so different on the other side. Like, I think that model I think that's why people love like a weekend retreat or a week-long yoga retreat, right? It's like an intensive environment where you are, guaranteed in some ways or very challenged to change radically, right? And, I think for some people that model works really well, going into an environment that encourages so much change. And that's great, but you can also do that in so many other ways, right? And I think sometimes where people get stuck is they're like, well, I don't have time for a week-long yoga retreat to change my thoughts and beliefs and all the things, right? And you can do that in so many different ways. Like we do that in wild circles, but even on a smaller scale, like you can do that through audiobooks. You can do that through podcasts. Like we are living in a time of so much opportunity. And I think sometimes in some ways it's too much, right? Like we have unlimited access to everything. And sometimes that means that, we sit on the couch and scroll for 3 hours. But on the flip side, we also have so much access that we're living in a world where if you want to change your mindset radically, in some ways it's easy to do that because we have so much access, right? You can go download those audiobooks, listen to the podcast. We have access to these renowned geniuses in this field that can really help us make those shifts and see the world in such a different way. In that way, it's such an incredible time to be alive, because if we want that, that is within our control and within our grasp.
And I love the beautiful way that you just shared that. I think one of the most powerful things that we see as an opportunity in Shed is this profound moment of a pattern interrupt, right? It's the almighty pause where things get quiet, to your point, and we can start to really discern what feels like truth for us and what the world has told us is truth. And that is an intense approach, and it's for our people for sure. But what I love about what you just said is that there are simple ways that we can create this pattern interrupt in a modern world, and for quite inexpensive. So I think for me, when I heard that quote over the holidays, and it literally became like the tone of my vision board for 2026, was like, okay, if this is true, if for me the messaging was that there is an overwhelming, God wants us to be able to do two things. And one of those things is to enjoy our work, is to take great delight. Okay, well, if that's true, and I've been working towards that for many years, then how am I going to start to enjoy things? If I can't enjoy it now, I won't enjoy it tomorrow. So the flowers prompted this, like, okay, well, my home is my sacred space. My home is this wonderful place I get to come leave the world and just unplug and be with my people. What would I like that environment? If I were to create a pattern interrupt with how I'm currently going to create more enjoyment, what are the things that I could do today that would create the permission field for a different tomorrow? So for me, I started thinking of all the things I saw women in my world sacrifice, right? We put the good china away. We don't light the pretty candles because you want to keep those for guests. Heaven forbid you use them on yourself, right? For me, it sounds so ridiculous, but the difference of keeping all flowers in a bouquet in one vase, to me, that is like an unfair act to these beautiful flowers, but that's a personal thing I realized. But I started actually separating them and putting vases all over, just this beautiful, like, feminine beauty. Part of the reason I'm so obsessed with the concept of rewilding and the divine feminine is because it's everything I am not naturally. I am pulled to it because I want to understand that part of myself. So for me, of like articulating or visualizing how I could build that in today so that I could be that essence naturally at 65 was, well, I'm going to use my grandmother's china and drink coffee out of that. It meant so much to her. It's hand painted. She had to buy every single piece. She'd take the bus by herself to Burke's and buy a couple pieces, whatever she could afford at a time, before she'd built the set. Like, there was time, energy, and a lot of love poured into that resource, yet we're hiding it away. We're hiding it away and we're saving it. And I don't think we realize the cost of that. And so there was just this radical, to your point, you can pattern interrupt very inexpensively, very simply today, by actually looking at these parts of, like, where am I starving myself? What am I not allowing myself in the hopes that I'll be able to enjoy it tomorrow? With everything that Tara's just shared with us, the chances of me being able to override 85% of negative thought patterns at 65 is going to be nearly impossible. What can I do today to start to create this permission field to allow? What people don't realize is that when we're generous to ourselves, we're able to be more generous and in service of others. Everybody benefits when we start to actually allow personal enjoyment to be part of the equation. Are you feeling burnt out and exhausted? See you and someone who has recovered from a few burnouts herself. And through sitting in circles with women over the last 8 years, I have some perspectives as to what personality traits and habits and thinking traps perpetuate and put us at higher risk of developing and ending up in burnout. So if you want to find out your burnout archetype quiz, are you a CEO? Are you a saboteur, a martyr, a rescuer, a zombie? Then head over to the show notes, click the free quiz, and find out what might be getting in your way. Also, learn strategies and things to consider to help you reclaim your energy and recover from burnout so that you can be blissed out in the world and doing things that make you happy. Enjoy.
It's so true. It's like, really, what what are we waiting for? Like with the China, it's like, who are we waiting for? And why is that person worthy of nice things, but you are not? Right? Why is that the case?
What's the undertone message there? And I think we don't think about that. Like, what am I actually saying about this? I'm not worthy. So if you're not worthy today, what makes you think you'll feel worthy tomorrow? Like, it won't happen.
Yeah.
You've spent an entire lifetime starving yourself for this feast that you will never permit. You will never allow it. It will flood your nervous system. And I think this is really important as we expand the conversation on safety and nervous system calibration. If you don't titrate yourself towards pleasure, you will never allow the flooding of a pleasurable experience to happen because you will shut down.
Yeah, it won't feel safe.
Won't feel safe. Our nervous system isn't discerning of a positive or negative occurrence. It's aware of a sensory experience. And if that sensory experience is too much either way, you're going to shut down.
You will.
So our job of having these conversations, our job of talking to women one-on-one and in circles is to start to titrate and calibrate towards holding it all, holding those sensations, creating a greater resilience for those sensations so that you can start to not only create a safety or neutrality towards the hard, but also to create a safety and neutrality towards the good. We don't realize we're cutting ourselves off in both areas.
Yeah. Yeah. And something, this just reminds me of when I was in naturopathic school, I got a certificate in cognitive behavioral therapy.
Of course you did.
School addict, working on it. And it was fascinating. I loved that course. Something that they talked about and that I ended up talking about a lot when I did workshops in schools is the relationship between our emotions, our thoughts, and our behaviors. And when we hear those stats of, 95% of our thoughts are repetitive, 80% are negative, often people want to intervene at the level of the thoughts, right? And what we actually know is that with our emotions, we have about 0% control over the way that we feel, right? And that emotion that immediately comes up, we have no control over that, right? Something happens, we feel a feeling. With our thoughts, we have about 50% control over those. So we have the feeling and then we have that automatic thought. Oftentimes, there's something called automatic negative thoughts, and those will come up and maybe we can't control those. Maybe we can control the third or the fourth thought or whatever. But with our actions or our behaviors, we have 100% control, for the most part, over our actions. And so sometimes I find people get so caught up in trying to change their feeling, but we have no control over that. And so the place to intervene really, to change our feelings, to change our thoughts, is our actions, right? And sometimes when we can zoom out and we can look at that pattern of what is the emotion, what is the thought, what is the behavior, we can see that we're really getting stuck in a loop often, right? We choose behaviors that reinforce those same negative thoughts, those same negative emotions that we're stuck in. And it's just a loop. And so when I see the 95%, it's loopy, right? Like we are just getting stuck in those loops. But it's exactly what we're talking about is we have to choose different actions, right? We need different inputs if we want different outputs. If we want to change our life, we really have to change the things that we are doing. We have to put ourselves out there. We have to listen to the new things or, join a community group or do the different things to get different outcomes. And it's as hard and as simple as that, right?
Well, that's why I love that line. The truth is simple. It's just not easy. The truth is simple. What you've just said is so beautifully and simply articulated, like so brilliantly articulated. It is simple. Now, it's not going to be easy. As I was like writing all these notes, we're wired as primal humans. We're wired to conserve. That's why when we say the truth is simple, it's just not easy. It's going intellectually, you can hear this and be like, yeah, everything they're saying checks out. It makes sense. But then bringing out the china or burning the candle, like beyond it feeling foreign and weird to you, like an unflexed muscle, everyone around you is going to respond. So I was telling Tara, like, I was genuinely confusing my family because they're like, why are you burning candles? Like, what's going on? They were finding it very weird. And the thing is that I'm getting more titrated, more comfortable with holding, changing things. Before, I would have either never attempted, or as soon as I met some initial resistance, even from loved ones, and they're just curious. But as a girl who didn't like people inquiring about why she was changing, because it would bring up all kinds of primal or like young girl feelings of shame or guilt, I would just sabotage, right? I would just abandon myself to be included in the tribe, to be included in the primal family, or in the, like, yeah, our most human need is to belong. I would just stop what I was doing in order to appease and make it comfortable for everyone. Now, because I'm titrating to these new sensations of all things are allowed, it's okay, change is also okay, I'm a little more comfortable with some opposition or some inquiry. Why are you doing this? This is very confusing. You went from never lighting a candle in our house to lighting a candle every time you sit downstairs. Why is this happening? And it's just genuine curiosity. But if you're not ready to be like, well, I'm internally changing and I'm embracing my inner feminine, and I don't want to cut myself off of pleasure when I'm 65, so I'm burning the candle now. It's not an easy thing to navigate. Like, we understand the challenge you're up against. And I think this is why we do so much in a community, because it is a lot easier linking arms and being like, yeah, like a lot of people are having a response, even though it's positive and everyone's benefiting from me being happier. They're still genuinely confused because we pattern out and you're acting different than you did on December 27th, 2025, right? Like it's distinctly different. And so we have to understand that it not only why this is not as easy to implement as it is easy to intellectually understand, is that not only are we going to have to get comfortable titrating to new sensations, but we're also going to have to be explaining ourselves to people who genuinely love us and are like, this is weird. You just never did this. So why now? Right?
Yeah. And I think too, giving your family and friends the opportunity to rise to your new level. Right? I think, right? Like sometimes we assume it's going to ruffle feathers. And so I'm not even going to try. Or they could feel this type of way. And so I'm just going to avoid the conflict. But what if it's better than we imagine? Right? Or what if there is a little friction and then it gives them permission or the opportunity to also grow. Like we see this so much with our shed patients, right? Like sometimes there is friction with their families as they change the way that they live and they eat. And then there's friction. And then a few weeks later, they're like, you know what? My whole family's actually eating way better. You know what? My husband, he's losing weight too, and he's thrilled. Right?
All
like
the time.
All the time, right? But sometimes we assume that people can't handle it or they can't grow. And so we rob them of that opportunity to be there for us, to support us in new ways. And there's so much value in that too, right? Of knowing that you are worth more, you deserve more, and then letting your people support you and build you up.
I'm going to highlight something because, gosh, you're so brilliant and so wise. No, this is so important. I want to highlight this because we talk about this concept a lot in Wild Circles, and we've been studying it for years. And one quote that you just made land even deeper for me was that we cut off the opportunity for collaboration and people being able to help us and come up with a solution superior to whatever we could have come up with on our own. And part of the modern day problem I see that we face as North American women who have strived for independence in every capacity, financial independence, work independence, all of the things, sexual independence, like all the things we fought so hard to have. One of the possible negative side effects or consequences of such a pursuit is that we actually we don't remember how to collaborate and receive help. And part of the problem is that we can only think the way we're patterned to think. And unless we get comfortable and maybe assume that people could handle, that change or transformation far better than we could have imagined, but maybe they could make our life even easier, or they could innovate a solution well beyond your capacity, because when you have two people on board, the outcomes and the potential solutions become infinite to what one person could do. And so I think what you're saying is particularly important and something I have to remember, because I was equipped to be an independent woman. That was the messaging from both sides of my parenting and my raising, was never need anyone for anything. And that's a hard person to be married to. It's a hard person to collaborate with. And every time there's an opportunity for collaboration, every time there's an opportunity for problem solving as a pair in my marriage, man, am I like just blown away with what becomes possible when we start to share our visions with others and see the opportunity. I was talking about a situation where I was talking to my kids, and I do think my role as a family member is important. And so if something I want to do is going to be disruptive of the family flow, I want to talk to them about it before I do it. I don't just do it. And in the beginning, they were teasing me and all the things. And then we had a really good family conversation around why this was important for me, what this would provide. And eventually it was like my daughter being like, no, you're going to do this. It's like, we want you to do this. It's going to be okay, right? So it's, again, how much do we never even get to see what could be possible if we're never even vocalizing our needs or desires to those who love us? Like, it's so bizarre that we have this thinking like, I don't even want to share it, but it's so true that what if they handled it even better than you could have possibly imagined?
Yeah. And I think similar to you, like raised similarly to be like an independent woman, like all the things, right? And I think one of the greatest lessons of my life has been in partnership and collaboration, and learning that I don't even know how to articulate this, because it's been such a profound lesson to me, is that I'm actually not better alone, even though my whole life I thought that, right? And my husband and I, we've been together a very long time. And so we've grown up so much together. And I think that has been such a gift, like for someone, and with him, and I feel this way about you too, like to be so close to someone in different aspects of your life. They help you grow so much and see different parts of you and challenge you and reflect back certain things. It's such, I think I think that was the messaging years ago, was like, be independent, rely only on yourself. And learning that isn't the truth, at least for me, has been such a beautiful and freeing lesson. I've learned so much more about, like it's been such I'm so glad I had the opportunity to learn that lesson.
I think the triggering truth is that we're all wired for belongingness. None of us are okay when we're doing things in isolation. Like, we're not okay. We might be able to put on a really strong face, but it's not, especially as women, it's not how we were designed to thrive. And even if you look at nature, a lot of raising the pack is done by multiple women. Like, it is a collaborative effort. Trying to have a full-time career and raise a family and do all of those things, it's very hard to do alone. And unfortunately, the consequence is not, it takes a toll. It takes a huge, huge toll. And I was thinking the same as you were speaking. It's like, we thrive in collaboration. And, I think for a lot of women I've served anyways, and personally, it is difficult to trust again, right? If you feel like you've been burned, if you feel like those relationships haven't been safe. But I will say, the more you get to know yourself and titrate a safer nervous system and feel safe within yourself, people will reveal themselves to you and you'll know when to trust. And I think that's what works so well between you and I, is that there's just always been this beautiful cadence and calibration of, this person is safe. This person is 100% consistent. If we've had to have a hard conversation or there's been really great things going on, there's always been the congruence that you're like, this is a real deal human. So then when opportunities present themselves, like the opportunity to collaborate in all the ways we collaborate, it's always been like, well, yeah, there hasn't been any reason not. I trust this person because I trust myself enough. And my inner guidance system has always really felt very safe and peaceful around this person. And so I think the more we get to know ourselves, the more we get to familiarize ourselves, how we respond to things, the more we will trust ourselves in interactions and with others, to know who to trust and who not to trust. We're not saying like you just go out into the world and start collaborating with everyone. That's not going to create safety, but we do want to create the invitation that we were never meant to do this alone. And if you are feeling very lonely, to start really paying attention to who makes you feel like safe to be around and who doesn't, and start to really distill through those pieces, because it gets to be so much better in collaboration.
It really does.
Right?
It really does. And I feel the exact same way. And just so everyone knows, now that we're doing the podcast together, every episode will be a love fest between the two of us, just so everyone is well aware. But I totally agree. And I feel so lucky. And I think that's, even going back to how we started, that is one of the ways that we don't allow ourselves to feel pleasure and to feel happy, is we don't allow ourselves the opportunity to form these deep, trusting, loving, intimate relationships with other people. Because and I hear this all the time from women, that they're scared of something being too good, right? Because their life experience is that on the other side of something good is something bad, right? And it's like always this fear. And so I'll just live this very dulled down neutral life because happiness feels so unsafe. It feels so scary. And that is so sad. It's so sad to me to hear that. And it really goes back to those thought loops, because whatever we believe is the truth is our truth. Like that, if we believe that we can't be happy because there is something terrible on the other side, okay, that is the truth to you. But if we can zoom out, the truth of life is that there's good and there's bad things. And that's just the way that it is. And we can learn from all of it, right? A bad thing is only a bad thing. And obviously, I don't want to downplay, there are terrible things in the world, of course. And there's also really beautiful things. And there's always going to be both. But if we don't allow, and it's like what you said before, it's like we don't allow ourselves to feel, we're scared of the bad. And so we don't feel the good. And we just live this like lukewarm existence.
To not feel. And one of the quotes that I heard last week that stabbed me in the heart as like a really potent reminder is, the more we feel, the better we feel. But somehow we got it twisted, and we think the less we feel, the safer we'll feel. Right? Yeah. And so I agree. I think what we're up against, what the modern day woman is up against, is this numbed out, patterned out, lukewarm life that is slowly killing you, killing your joy, your creativity, your fulfillment, your satisfaction. It's quite possible what we see. All your basic needs are being met, but there's this purposelessness to what you're doing that doesn't feel good. And all of what we're saying is vitally important, because if we don't have these conversations, if we don't prompt you to really reflect and think about this, then we're not doing our job to help you have a more satisfying, more pleasurable, tomorrow, whatever that is, for whatever journey you're on. If you can't enjoy it today, you won't enjoy it tomorrow. And I promise you, and I know Tara would 100% agree with me, if the more you feel, the better you feel. Like, you have to start feeling it. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it needs to be there. And all of that is far more fun done in communion. And so, one of the things, it is a love fest, and it was years in the making. It was years in the making of both of us testing each other out. Is this person the real deal? Is she authentic? Is she everything she claims to be? I have a sensor for that, because I also have a desire to not be in a situation where it's not that, right? If it's not that, please take it away. Like, I am not interested. And it's hard to not have your heart hardened. And one of the things I think makes me so profoundly sad in a wild circle is how many corporate women tell me that the hardest person to get along with, or the person they fear most in the corporate world, is other women. Like, it's a really toxic environment. And I was speaking to one of our past facilitators, Tennille, today, and one of the most beautiful things she said is like, I don't know that there's any safer a space for women than a wild circle. And that means a lot to me. This episode is brought to you by the Wild Collective. If you are ready for something innovative, something truly transformational, you are wanting to build a beautiful life and thriving health and vibrant energy, and you're not sure how to build that in, you might want to consider something as incredible as the Wild Collective. The Wild Collective is our women's health initiative. It is a closed community of like-minded individuals. It is where sisterhood meets self-care. There's 10 modules of fundamental women's health, all the evidence-based information that you need, the testing, the handouts, the assessment, how to advocate for yourself in the wellness space. Also, what natural and integrative approaches you can consider for any age and stage in life. And being that it is part of a community, you also get this beautiful experience of meaningful connection, conversations that matter, and truly up-leveling your life. So if you are ready to take on something totally transformative and fun, then please go check us out at the Wild Collective. So that's the-wild-collective.com. Get on the wait list, and we will see you in one of our wild circles very soon. That means a lot to me because for most of my life, belongingness was not a thing. It wasn't possible. It wasn't in my realm of awareness. It certainly wasn't an early childhood experience. It certainly wasn't an elementary experience for myself. I was 26 truly before I actually felt like I had found a pack where I belonged with. I waited a long time. And so, I still get it wrong. I still need to course correct. But what I'm choosing now is I understand that the more I feel, the better I feel. You can still be sad with things not working out, but it doesn't mean that you change who you are to find the people you're meant to have. And the reason we share everything is because we truly do align in so many ways. We're worthy of each other in holding that. It's an earned thing, right? So, just in case people are hearing this, that doesn't happen overnight. Tara and I have been working together since I think possibly 2021.
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah. Yeah. Somewhere around there.
Right. So anyways, we're saying that because all parts of this, you can't really just extrapolate one thing. What you can do, just to summarize, what you can do today to start to create a permission field or pattern interrupt from numbness to feeling is actually asking yourself, what are you putting off and what could you build in on an everyday basis to start to create a different permission field? But also you could start working towards being very intentional with knowing yourself, how you respond to situations, and putting yourself in rooms or spaces or in communities that feel in alignment and in coherence.
Yeah. And even something like, you're becoming a breathwork facilitator, and we had the opportunity to learn from you on Friday and go through some breathwork together. And even something, and, I shared with you and everyone who attended that it was such a profound experience for me. You're very, very talented. I was even telling patients yesterday that that everyone needs to join and everyone needs to do that and experience that from you, because it was such just the way that you set the whole thing up with the music and the cues, and it was such a beautiful experience. And what you were saying too, right, is our breath is always available to us, right? It's always there. We can always tap into it. That's even one of the ways that we can work with our nervous system, recalibrate, notice what triggers you, notice when your breath quickens, and just even starting, like you were saying, just with that awareness, or even starting to think what are my thought loops? What are the thoughts that I am having every day? And what do I want to do about that? Is there a solution? Is this a thing that maybe it's rooted in shame or guilt and you just need to let it down or let it go, right? Just an inventory of some of those things that are keeping you stuck is the way to start, right? That is the way, to change everything, you have to change one thing at a time and go slow, right? And it's all the little things. All the little things really add up. And I think when we look at the big thing of I want my life to be totally different than it is now, it feels so unachievable. It feels like the only way to get there is to burn it all down. But we can go slow, right? Like one change a day, listen to one new podcast that changes or challenges your worldview or your beliefs, right? Make a playlist that you love and listen to that in the morning. Like change your state in small ways as much as you can, and that will change everything over time.
Yeah, the pressure to have it all together tomorrow is immense. And I wrote that as a quote. That's a really good quote. Like, to change everything, you have to change one thing at a time. And what we have to remember is that change compounds, right? So like, if all you can do today, if all you hear is like, well, I have my grandmother's china, I could totally take out a cup and drink coffee out of it, and let's just see what happens. Why don't I just humor Michelle for a minute and see what happens? Or you're, buy a store and you can buy yourself some flowers, or you can slowly eat your breakfast, or you can change your state by listening to music you love in the car. Like, what is one meaningful thing that you can do to just hijack the patterning for a minute and do something that really makes you happy or feel good? That can compound into a widening permission field to then elect something else. And then all of a sudden, a year later, you're looking back and you're like, I'm really good to myself. And my capacity for that has allowed me to be a way more generous coworker, mother, wife, daughter, right? Like, it compounds. We don't even get to see, we don't get to see the fruits of our labor until like doing it over time. But then all of a sudden you realize you have this capacity for so much more. And the choice is truly yours. And I think this is really the vibe of 2026 and everything that we want to bring to all the bodies of work that we do. I mean, these conversations are happening all the time in Wild Collective. And so stay tuned if you want to hang out with us more in that capacity. We've got some really exciting events coming up for everyone, whether you're new to us or seasoned and been with us for a really long time. We've got some really exciting opportunities. These are the conversations that we have one-on-one with our patients in a shed. It's just the standards. I always say this about the work that we do. We hold really high standards for our people, but we also are in the arena with you. You're never doing it alone. And so I think this is why we see such beautiful and consistent transformations in the work that we do, is that we have high standards, but it's done with a very high level of integrity, compassion, and support. You're not alone on this journey, and it's okay if you don't know how to do it yet. It is important, though, that you put yourself in the right state or rooms to create a different permission field. And to your point, it can be as simple as changing our breath. It doesn't have to be hard. I think that's the beautiful thing. But I do think it needs to hit on a very deep level that if you can't enjoy it today, you won't enjoy it tomorrow. And it is just that simple.
Yeah.
But making the change won't be that easy.
Yeah. And something that I said, my husband and I were talking about this recently, is, I was reflecting on the fact that up until this point, I've spent my whole life in school. It was, my whole life. I just turned 30, and this is the first time that I'm done, not going back, all done. And I just had this moment where I realized I'm in my life. I am now in the place of my life that I have worked my whole life to get to. This is my life. And I think that it's important that, people listening can just take a moment to just realize that too. You are in your life, and the choice about how you live it is yours. Time is going to pass either way, and it's not going to slow. We were in it. We're in the rest of our life. And so what does that look like? What does that look like today? What does that look like tomorrow? And, something with, I don't want to sound harsh saying this, but it's something that I was reflecting on too, especially in the moments that feel challenging. To myself, I thought, no one is coming to save me, right? It's up to me. It's up to me how I want, this friendship to go, or this relationship with a family member, or my whatever. All of these, no one is going to change this for you. And I think sometimes we secretly hope for that, right? We hope that something something external is going to change that will cause our life to change in a positive way. But we have to be the one to make that decision. It has to come from us for it to actually create those ripples effects that we're looking for, right? We are in it. Time is not slowing. And what we do at that time is really up to us.
100%. 100%. And you have to take action. Like, you can't just hope for change without being invested in being part of the change, right? So it's so beautiful if you believe you're being divinely guided, and you can see how the next step can present itself as you take, but you have to take that step. No one can do it for you, to your point. I think so beautifully articulated. And I this is the vibe. It's the vibe of how we want to be supporting people this year. And so, like, thank you for taking the time to listen to us share about this, because we think that, well, it's been weighing on our hearts, but is the important thing to contemplate and sit with as the year unfolds, is like, how do you want to spend your time? And like, to your point, you worked your whole life to be here, and now you're here. So you're going to look for the next thing, or are you going to relish that you built this? This is a direct consequence of all the actions you took to get you to this moment, to be of service to people in this way. You know, you can be a high achiever and desire to want to accomplish and do really big things, and also have the capacity and the permission field to enjoy it all.
Yeah, I think
I've seen it. I don't know what the quote is, but I've seen it. It's like, your past self would be so proud that you're living the life that your past self prayed to be able to do, and now you're here. Yeah. But sometimes I think we forget that. And if we can't sit in that now, we won't be able to sit in that 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. That's just how it works, right? It's just how our neurochemistry works, how our thought life works. Yeah. And that's why this conversation needs to be at the beginning of everything that we do, because it's setting the tone of, you know, our standards for the people we serve, equaled with our level of compassion of being able to facilitate that important transformation. But we know that your best life is on the other side of really getting it and taking the action.
And we're so lucky because we get to see this all the time, right? In Wild Circles with our patients, we get to see them really take this on, right? Like we talked about in our last episode in Shed, how people, like, identities completely shift on the other side of Shed. And it's so beautiful to get to see that kind of transformation and walk alongside these patients and our community members in Wild Circles as this happens, because it's not easy, but it's all those micro changes, the boundary setting, the decision, choosing the hard thing, you know, working through that emotion. It's a beautiful transformation. And we really hope that this inspired you. And even if, like we said, you know, do one thing differently today, and then do one thing differently tomorrow, and then just keep going. And all of those changes do compound over time. They really do. And it's so beautiful to see the other side of that, and where that takes you in a year, in 2 years. And there's so much good to come. It's so beautiful, and it's so exciting.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you so much for tuning in to Wild Medicine. I am so grateful to have you here, and I hope you're feeling inspired and empowered. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. It helps us reach more incredible women just like you. And before you go, quick reminder, the information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat any medical condition. Please consult with your healthcare provider for personalized advice and care. And if you're ready to take inspired action and dive deeper into your own health journey, please visit us at poppyclinic.com. Let's rewild and reset your health together.